I almost got it as good as Omar. Good evening. Welcome again to another episode of the AV Educate Podcast Edition. I am so happy to be with you all again here tonight. Drop in the comments. Let me know exactly where you guys are chiming in from. I want to see everybody. We're here. We got a really interesting episode tonight. It's completely different. We got a great guest, but I want to see where everyone is tuning in from tonight. Let's see in the comments. Get someone fired up tonight. All right, so just having a conversation last night with someone, and they told me, he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm I'm preparing my lunchbox at the moment." So I said, "You're preparing your lunchbox? It's like 11:30 at night." He said, "Yeah, but it's a little different. What I have to do is I have to properly prepare myself for these really long runs, right?" So I said, "How long is this run?" He's going on a 20-day run. So when we talk about our AV community, when we talk about technicians, engineers, they say, "Hey, you guys get paid really good for what you do, right?" But we get paid for what we do, get paid really well for what we do, but we also work a whole lot. 20 days is a super long run with no days off. Imagine being on the road away from your family, not getting back to your own bed, not having your normal meals and things. But how do we survive working these extremely long shifts? So anyone in the comments, tell me what's the longest show run that you had, even if it's a compilation of two or three different shows that you had together with no days off in between. Because I constantly see it time and time again where technicians are saying, "Hey, I haven't had a day off in the past 4 weeks. I haven't had a day off in the past 6 weeks," and it sounds great, especially prior to the pandemic. A lot of things changed in 2020, and some of us are getting back to it. Some of us have been on fire, but tell me how long you have been on a show run. Tell me what is the longest run that you put in. And what we want to talk and touch base on tonight is how do we prepare ourselves for these really long show runs that we have? How do we prepare ourselves to make sure that we're ready for it, that our bodies are ready for it, that everything is substantial? So before I go on ranting and raving and talking too much, I want to actually introduce tonight's guest. Tonight's guest is a colleague of mine that we met through working time and time again. So as we say it, when we work together in this industry over and over, it tends to feel like a brotherhood. So what happened between him and I is a pretty interesting story as to how we got to this point where we're going to have this conversation tonight. But what I find really interesting is he told me his goal. And when I heard about his goals, I said, "All right, we got to get you on the podcast because I believe that our community needs to hear about this." His goal is he wants to bridge that gap, take people down the roads where the crossroads of AV and being a life coach starts to meet. The most important feat that he finds is our basics in health, in food and nutrition. So without further ado, I want to introduce tonight's guest, Mr. Ryan Balog.
Hey, what's happening?
What's going on, Ryan? How you doing?
Good man, good man. Beautiful evening.
If everyone else doesn't know, there's an insider, and no one else would know it. Man, your forehead looking good
Oh shoot,
tonight.
man, left forehead.
Oh man, Ryan, it's a pleasure to have you on tonight.
Likewise, blessing to be here. So,
Absolute. Thank you
mhm.
so much. So, why don't you give us a little backstory about who you are, what do you do, and the information that you want to share with us tonight?
Sure. I've been in the entertainment industry for as long as I can remember. I started playing music when at a very young age, and then I kind of fell into the production end of things at the beginning of my 20s. Furthered my career, going on the festival circuit, and then I found Jay Thor. Some of you may know. by chance, and I gave it a shot to kind of like commit to just him rather than bouncing from place to place to place. And it turned out to be very prosperous for me to give a lot of energy into him. Regarding my background being music, I have learned the ins and outs of video, lighting, and scenic, but audio is truly my niche. I've learned to become an audio engineer as well through Jay Thor's the J Thor family. A lot of my friends have taught me through the years on what to actually do in order to achieve a really good show. I do have what we're going to talk about today is, the nutrition side of things. I do have an extensive background in the studies of nutrition, health, wellness, fitness, and lifestyle coaching, based off of my passions that I developed in my teenage years. So I really kind of like, as you said, the goal is, I kind of like working with you. I kind of found this new derived passion to maybe take my knowledge and gift it to everyone in our community. I was out of the community for probably about 2 years. I had some personal issues that I had to work through, some finances and just some poor decision making. And through that detriment, I learned a lot, and I feel that I'm finally at a place where I would love to do bring both my passions together and bring them to light, and hopefully inspire others to start taking care of the machine that they operate on a daily rather than taking care of just the machines that they operate outside of themselves. So
That was super
you know
powerful. That is super
hmm
powerful. Definitely want to deep dive on that. So
hmm
taking care of the machine that we are, as
hmm
opposed to just taking care of the machines that we operate on.
right.
Just bringing in a couple of the comments that we had. We had Omar says we get paid good, we work hard for it, and have to
Hey,
wait
that's
30,
right.
60, sometimes 90 days
It
later. And,
is.
and it's the truth. He said he's
hmm
been on the road since September 5th. Today is the 29th. So that's 24 days straight. Salvador, he said 21 days across 3 countries, no downtime. Travel was still work dealing with customs hauling equipment. I know it could be a lot. It could
It
be an
is a lot.
absolute lot.
hmm
Antonio Clark, I've done 28 days, 3 different shows with no time off. And things like that, it's a lot of work, right?
hmm
To travel, work, not sleeping in your own bed, and half the times we don't even know what we're going to eat and things of the sort. So
right.
how can we position ourselves? You have a background in nutrition. How
Right.
can we position ourselves to better take care of our own machines, of ourselves?
Well, we have to be cognitive of the decisions we're making in regards to what we're eating. Whatever we eat, we become, in a sense. Now, how it works with the human body is, um, if you put something like, say, like you're offered Doritos with your sandwich, or your sandwich itself is to the contrary to a lot of people's belief, is highly toxic in the bread. Now, our bodies, what they do is when you put toxins in them, like foreign chemicals like MSGs or GMO foods like the bread that we eat, there is no such thing as real wheat germ. So all the wheat and bread that we eat now these days is all GMO. So it's different genetic coding. So our bodies attack that different genetic coding because it's something foreign that it's not designed to ingest. So then what happens is it releases all these free radicals, antibodies, and white blood cells to attack this foreign object that's inside of you. With that being said, now I'm sure some of you notice when you go off and you eat pizza or you eat a lot of bread, you end up like getting really tired all of a sudden. Well,
Mm-hmm.
your body is in attack mode. It's your immunity levels are through the roof because it's trying to combat, the toxins that are in that bread or in the Doritos that you ate. So your energy levels get depleted because now your mitochondria are focused so heavily on getting rid of the toxin. So being mindful of what you're putting in your body while you're out on the road or while you're just at a gig is super, super, super important to being able to have not only high energy levels to finish the long days that we have, but also to have cognitive function from the beginning of the day to the end of the day without having that crash or that dip from an insulin spike or anything like that.
Absolute, absolute.
Hmm.
Because so say repeat that one line that you just said with having that cognitive function. I
Hmm.
feel that's the one thing that a lot of us may not pay attention to. Sometimes we say, "Okay, I'm a little tired." I find
Hmm.
so funny thing is here. Rob White just said, "Hey, Monsters, Mountain Dew, and Red Bull."
Yeah.
And what's absolute crazy, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but
Hmm.
there's a lady that I met in the industry, and she's known to be like an industry vet that she has taught so many riggers.
Hmm.
And I'm talking probably like 30 years in the industry. So she's super well known. And long story short is she drank herself Monster Red Bull 5 hour energy to the point that she was in the hospital and had 3 strokes, had to relearn everything, how to
Right.
speak, how to walk, how to, so
It's
I
tough.
understand that artificial energy may give you some
Hmm.
type of juice that you may need at the moment, but I believe that the right nutrition and giving our bodies the right fuel, because you said let's
Hmm.
talk about ourselves as a machine, right? If
Yeah,
we give
100%.
ourselves the right fuel, that we operate a little different in terms of how our energy levels stay consistent throughout the day, but
Right.
also our thought does the same thing as well. Because
Correct.
what happens is as we have these different levels of sugar,
Hmm.
insulin spikes and things throughout the day, what happens is our brain becomes either more energized at the moment or a little bit more lazy at the moment. And I believe that having something that's a little bit more consistent allows it to be more focused, allows it to pay attention a little bit more, and
Hmm.
keeps us in tune with everything that's going on, as opposed to, hey, I'm really good at this, but 3 o'clock, don't ask me anything because I'm totally out of the loop.
Right, and not to attack the Monster Red Bull guy who made that comment, but
He
it's
said
like it.
Monster Red Bull.
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it's like it's an immediate fix to a long term problem, and if you're eating the right nutrition and giving your body the things that it absolutely needs, you don't have to reach for that Mountain Dew. You don't have to reach for that Red Bull because your body has all the energy that it needs in order to survive and get through. Our The worst thing that ever happened to mankind is the sugar company. Sugar is, if you look it up, you can do your own research on it. Sugar is actually a neurotoxin. And when we ingest this into our body, like I said before, our body goes in attack mode to fight off this neurotoxin. Now, the neurotoxin is the same thing that alcohol is. It weakens our cognitive function in our brain because of the level of inflammation that it causes. So the ultimate goal is to reduce your levels of inflammation so you don't have to reach for the Red Bull, the Mountain Dew, or the Monster. So then you can literally reach for some water or vitamins, preferably, and then you get that spike that you're looking for. And it's a healthier approach rather than like it's all about investment, man, like long term versus short term. So like the Mountain Dew and the Red Bulls are like short term gain, short term investment, short term gain, whereas vitamins and water and proper nutrition is long term gain, long term.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Hmm.
Now, let's so I've done shows with Rob, and we've sat side by side both working virtual streams and had some really long days.
Hmm.
Now, in a situation where we talk about nutrition, we talk about fitness, let's say for the day our job is pretty sedentary. We're behind boards, we're behind
Hmm.
machines, whatever the case may be. What do we do to maintain? Obviously we can't be really active at the moment, we're
Hmm.
sedentary, we're behind a board. What should we do in terms of nutrition to make sure that our energy levels could still stay the same, although we're not really in motion.
Right. Well, not to jump on the keto bandwagon, because that's a huge marketing craze right now, but they have a lot of really, really good science behind what their objectives are. If you eliminate sugars out of your diet and breads, which turn into sugars, the bad carbs, you can eliminate, those crashes that you experience while being dormant. Quick things like, nuts, preferably things that are easier digestible, like walnuts or cashews, rather than peanuts or almonds. Those can be a little bit more cause a little bit more inflammation and be harder to digest. And now the having those things, or maybe like avocados on standby. I also supplement vitamins with from this company called Fit Aid. They're huge. They have a huge marketing direction towards the CrossFit community. And I get all my vitamins from them. So like I carry these little packets, these little powder packets of vitamins. And when I feel like I'm deplenished and I'm feeling weak or dehydrated or anything like that, I'll just pop that in my water and just drink that real quick. And then I'm off to the next moment.
Okay.
There's other things like companies called Bulletproof. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Bulletproof coffees, where they basically the butter coffee with MCT8 oils in it. It's
Bulletproof. Put it in
Yes.
the comments.
Yeah, so those are other tricks that I use too. Like you can get really good nutrition without having a heavy stomach, just having one bulletproof coffee, and that can keep you going, because the name of the game is to maintain the cognitive function and have focus while having a small window of nutrition. So you want to be able to have the most bioavailable nutrition possible for those long stints. While you're sitting there too, you're not going to be digesting your calories at a very fast rate because you're just sitting there. So in this instance, less is a lot more. So when, say catering comes out and they bring you a big freaking, I've been there, and it's a huge dish of, prime rib or whatever, prime rib and potatoes. Be mindful and cognitive
Saying no
about
to that
how
prime.
much prime rib.
You saying no to that prime rib?
I mean, I've had it. I've had it on show. But I mean, being cognitive about like, hey, this is how many more hours I have left in my gig. Do I really need to eat all this, or can I portion this down to give my body exactly what I know and I feel I need, rather than overdoing it? Because then again, we when we overdo it, we hit that same crossroad where our body then starts creating a lot of inflammation and attacking, because it's like we're bloated, and it's like, oh my God, now the body has to work overtime to get rid of the extra junk that's sitting inside of our body. Yes, you may have put good nutrition in your body, but you never want to overdo anything.
Understood.
So,
Rob White says, currently in front of me on show site, one can of Planters cocktail peanuts, one can of hot
all
tamales, and four
right.
cans of Mountain Dew.
4 cans of Mountain Dew.
I'm all
He's
jacked
all
up,
jacked
Mountain
up on
Dew,
that Mountain Dew.
chip.
Yeah, man.
All
Mm-hmm.
right. So, I mean, nutrition is definitely a huge part in terms of what we
Mm-hmm.
should look at in terms of energy levels. Let's
100%.
let's talk about the fitness side of it. And the only
Okay.
reason I want to bring that up is not because this is about a health and fitness training, but you talk about a holistic, a whole body
Mm-hmm.
approach towards even AV, because I want the community to understand the importance as to why this is important for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've had people on, say, 28 days, 24 days, 21 days. These are some really, really long runs.
Yeah.
So how can we better prepare ourselves, not only just in nutrition wise, what should we be doing to make sure that our bodies are ready for these long runs? And not only just these long runs, but also these long runs are being repeated month after month after month, year after year after year. How can we ensure that there's longevity in our careers, that we make sure that our machines are
Mm-hmm.
well oiled, they're well maintained, that we can make sure that we have a substantial career. Now, granted, we don't expect to be hoisting heavy cases for the next 30 years, but what can we do to ensure that we have a long career and make sure that once we're there at that point in 30 years that, hey, if in the event that we needed to hoist a case, we could still help out.
Well, this at this juncture, this kind of like comes down to like the intimacy of knowing your own body and how everything actually moves, and how everything moves together. I learned a lot about proper lifting when I did CrossFit camps. They taught me a tremendous amount about how to move heavy weight. We're constantly moving heavy weight all day, every day, or when we're sitting in the ballroom for 10 hours and then we have a strike at the end of the day. Now we're dormant and we got to get ourselves up and amplified to be able to start moving that heavy weight without hurting ourselves. We first have to understand that we have to get our bodies to an aerobic state, as far as our heart's concerned, so we can feel more awake, energized, have better blood flow to be able to lift properly. Things that you can do outside of the ballroom is, yoga. Yoga is really good for allowing you to develop balance in the body. So when it comes to lifting heavy things, you have more stability when it comes to lifting those heavy items. Doing CrossFit things that can teach you how to lift heavy weight. Plus, you get really, really strong. So then you're never worried about hurting yourself lifting weight because it seems light at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Good things to do too is, if you're on those 30-day long runs where maybe a lot of those days are you just sitting in the ballroom, I on my breaks, because we have breaks intermittent between shows, it's like, okay, we cut cameras and we just have a feed going up on the projection screen. Everybody's eating dinner during these times, and you haven't eaten your dinner. Do some wall squats, do some lunges, maybe do some planks. The thing is, and then we get into the mentality side of everything is, yeah, at the end of the day, you could be tired, but you have to be strong and understand that you do have the energy to make yourself more efficient and feel better. I'm never, my peers, they joke around at me because I am that guy that's behind stage running my A2 station, doing my lunges, waiting for the next person to come through. Reason why is like, I'm not afraid for them to make fun of me at all, because I know what I'm doing for myself, and I'm making certain that by the time loadout comes, my body's ready and I'm ready to go. So as far as the mentality, there's definitely a mentality side of it. I don't find any embarrassment when somebody's like laughing at me. Actually, I make fun of myself, so then they don't feel as bad, and
Yeah,
it's not that
yeah,
awkward energy
yeah.
in between.
Understood.
But I mean, like, you can always go out, like, if you're embarrassed about it, you can always find a corner. Like, at first when I was fighting the embarrassment, I would find like corners in another ballroom, in another breakout room that nobody was in, and do a quick little exercise in there. And you don't have to do much, is the best part. You just
You
have
don't
to
want to be that guy,
maintain.
man. You
Was
don't want to be
that?
that guy. The client walks in and you're over there doing like a bridge in the corner of the
No.
ballroom.
And that's what I mean about, like, not, you don't have to do much. And I don't do much. Maybe I'll do a couple push-ups and some planks, or I'll do a couple lunges or some squats, but it's never a lot of reps. It's never like a full workout. It's just for me to maintain my body's function to get the job done. So.
So what I'm understanding, or what I picked up from what you just said,
Mhm.
is you mentioned having that it seems like that cognizance. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
refer to it as discipline. We had a
Yeah,
really long
definitely.
day. We had a really long day. We may be tired, but we still need to do something to make sure that our bodies are still in tune and in check.
Mhm.
Rob brought up a great comment where he said we stay at hotels every week and we have access to some of the best home gyms in the country.
Heck yeah,
and
Rob.
it's so true. It is so
Mhm.
true. And you don't even have to go crazy in the
No, you
gym.
don't.
It sometimes it's, even if you can't run, you put the treadmill on an incline and you walk a little bit,
Yep.
whatever the case is, but something to get your heart rate up.
Hmm.
So, but we talked about a little bit about nutrition. We talked about a little bit about the preparation for the road. If we can have those MCTs and the coffees and things like you
Hmm.
said, having some available nuts and things. Let's talk about
Vitamins. Yep.
the some vitamins,
Hmm.
extra water, and things of the sort.
Right.
But let's talk about the preventative maintenance, because now we talked about the things that we can do to prepare ourselves for show site. Let's talk about before we even get to show site, or
Hmm.
what does that discipline look like at the end of those long days? What are some things that we should be looking at? You mentioned some push-ups, you mentioned
Hmm.
planks and things of the sort, but why are those even important to anyone who's in AV at all? Um, we One of the things that you and I had heavy discussion about was stretching. You earlier
Hmm.
mentioned yoga, but why are these things even anyone who's doing AV? Let's say an A1 who's going to be opping a board. Let's say someone who's a graphics app will be sitting behind some machines, or it could be someone who's out there running feeder cable. Why should any of this be important to our AV community?
Well, obviously, we all want to have, a long career. And, the hardest thing that can happen to an AV technician is they get hurt, which puts them out of work. And that's a significant paycheck for a lot of us when we all of a sudden lose weeks of work just from a simple injury that we could have avoided. Injuries will happen. It does happen. It's just a part of life. You just have to be able to bounce back from them. And I think the most important thing that everybody really needs to think about is mentality. Um, you know, if you feel good, things are going to become good.
Ooh,
So, you're sitting on a 20-day run. I personally want to feel good all 20 days. I don't want to feel bad at all. Because if I start feeling bad, then now I start having doubts in my capabilities, which is I'm not even trying to have those doubts, but for whatever reason, there's that shadow that comes in and goes, "Oh, you're not that good at this," or maybe you really shouldn't be doing this. And you should be rethinking that. Well, ultimately, I'm trying to get that guy away. I'm trying to get that negative person away
wow.
out of myself.
Wow. So you're
You
telling me
know,
that nutrition, what we're eating, can play a difference
hundred
in
percent.
and what about exercise? Because you one of the things that we started talking about before we even got on, so
Hmm.
you mentioned following Anthony Robbins. And
Yeah,
I remember he has a quote that says motion affects emotion,
hundred
right?
percent.
So let's talk about getting some of that bad guy out of your head and things of the sort.
Yeah. So I mean,
Because mindset and performance is super important
it's
once we're on
it's
show site, right?
it's everything. And combating an injury is hard itself because now you're dealing with your emotional side and dealing with your body, and you're not feeling as confident, and that's such a tough struggle to go through. I'm myself, I hurt my back. Actually, I'm dealing with it right now. And it's very, very, very limiting. I have to adjust how I'm working in order to complete the job, and it's still kind of like it's still an obstacle mentally because I don't feel as what's the word that I'm looking for, as important to the job, because I'm not at my fullest. And everybody knows what that feeling's like to be at your fullest. That's a great feeling when everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, that guy. He's killing it. He's killing it." And then to like have an injury, now your expectations of yourself are set at a high standard and you're wanting to be killing it. Well, here's the thing: you can walk in the ballroom and be injured and still kill it, but mentally you feel like you're not. So getting yourself to a place where you give yourself optimal nutrition, you can heal a lot quicker and prevent you from getting into those dark spirals of the mind. So,
Okay.
mhm.
That's super strong, because I don't think that we ever pay attention to how the body is affected, and
Right.
we pay attention to the fact that the body is affected. Today I don't feel like myself, right?
Hmm.
Or today I'm not feeling so confident, but we don't really pay attention to the steps that we took that affected us to why we feel that way, right?
Right. Exactly.
We talk about nutrition. You talked about the difference in the fitness and activities and things that we do. So I don't know, but if we're looking at having an overall long career, all of these are little steps that has to be important to us.
Indeed.
You
Yeah.
mentioned mindset now.
Hmm.
You mentioned the difference in how the foods can change how we're thinking. What do we do in an overall to have or what is your recommendation? We want to have a positive overall mind state to continuously be on point. Not only does our mood be affected, but also the mood of those around us. We affect the people around us. So how
We
can we affect and change that?
we absolutely do. And the best thing I can say is start with gratitude. If you're on the job and things just aren't going the right way, um, the thing that everybody forgets is we all have time. That's the one thing that's on our side. It feels like we don't because it's very fleeting, but what we do have is we have time. If you're moving really quick and all of a sudden something goes wrong and you're not feeling good, well, take a second to take a breath, breathe in, breathe out, and then just start thinking about all the things that you're grateful for. Like fact that you have the job, the fact that you're at this level and where you're at in your career, the fact that you're moving towards somewhere in your career. I'm constantly reminding myself of all the things that I'm grateful for on a daily basis. And then, I even give that out to my peers too. Hey man, you did a really good job doing this, or hey man, really great job on this. Hey, thanks for your help, or just joshing around with them. You know what you're really good at? Having a good forehead, and just like, keeping that morale alive, like you've seen me so many times in the ballroom, Austin, and I'm constantly joking around and having a good time, because, I understand how tough it is mentally to be doing what we're doing because we're in the grit, and that's why I love it so much. But you have to have a positive, good mindset in order to get through it, or else you won't be able to climb the obstacles that you need to climb.
Absolutely. I
Hmm.
believe everything that you just said 100%. I believe
Hmm.
it's absolutely powerful. While you were speaking, we had a comment come in from Rob. He
Yeah,
said the struggles as a tech, we're too tired after 12 hours of work, food choice short for meal breaks, and everything he said is absolutely true.
it
So what I
is.
wanted to do is let's bring Rob White on
Hmm.
and let's get him to chime in. What's up, Rob?
What up?
He's all jacked up in Mountain Dew.
Hey,
Chill.
well, he's got sucralose in there. That's a diet, so I'll give him some slack.
Yeah,
Sucralose isn't the best for you, but it's a lot better than sugar.
What's up, Rob?
sucraloses are, I think, your signal went out. What'd you say?
I said sucralose isn't the best for you, but it's better than sugar.
Yeah, I try to drink nothing but diet just because it's hard to kick the habit.
Right.
Kick the habit. So there's a difference between a lot of techs, like on site, and you know this. There's a
Hmm.
lot of guys who are super into fitness, super into eating healthy, and yes, I'm a little jealous of seeing them. But then there's guys like me who we're not super fat, but we're not healthy, and
Hmm.
we don't eat great, and we don't work out, we don't exercise. But when we do, like you said, it's unloading trucks. It's like our workout day, and then packing
Right.
trucks. We're like, oh, that's our workout day again. Twice a week we work out, and we don't even know it. And then,
Yeah,
and, the common on site is how many steps did you get today? It's like
Hmm.
I
that
got
is so true.
22,000. Oh my god, I'm at 35. You need to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That
normal. And
is
then
so true.
you look at your chart, and you're like every other day you're only at 2,000 or 1,000, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden you got these spikes, and then you can go back and be like, oh, look at this one spike. I remember that show. Like you were there, right? And um, so the question I kind of have for you is, since you're
Yeah.
such good at this, is how do you overcome? It's a mental game. I know.
Right.
Working out. I've done P90X for 90 days.
Oh, cool. I love it. I've done it too.
I got in great shape.
Hmm.
That was 10 years ago or 9 years ago when it first came out.
Right.
And then then you stop, and it's like any other fad that you kind of do, like you said, the keto diet. People do it and then they stop. And I think you're right. The mental game is to how do you get into it and keep on it. And there's guys who are like you who are really into it and you've kept on it and you're great. It's awesome.
Well,
But like the question I'm going to have for you is, where's the medium there? I don't want to be the guy who, like, you're mentioning, like, I do the push-ups or the wall jacks or whatever you're, during while I'm waiting for the next guy to mic up. I don't want to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I would say 80% of the people on here, that's not going to happen. It's not going to be that. So what's your advice for those guys who, like me, I'm not going to ditch my diet Mountain Dew. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
There might be weeks that I don't have it. It just happens to be I just can't get to it. Like I was in China for 2 weeks. They didn't have it. I couldn't get it. And you talk about the diets and everything. When you go to another country for a couple weeks on a show, your whole system's like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Less grease, less food that you're used to, and you get used to it. And then you come back to the U.S. and again your body's like, what the hell's going on? Back to this. Pick one. So what's your advice for guys like me who don't want to go full-fledged crazy, but need to get better at this? Like I said, I've been on site all day today. It's 9:00 at night here. We just got served dinner. It was it's a plate. It's got a thing of salmon. It's got a thing of chicken, a thing of potatoes, and some vegetables on there. And like, I'm eating the whole damn thing because I'm hungry.
Well, here's the thing: is you should eat. The thing is eat food.
I got that.
Yeah,
check,
we
check.
we deplete so many calories all the time. Now, here's the thing: is I'm gonna go back to mentality, and you said I'm not going to do something. Well, you haven't created enough leverage inside of yourself, emotional leverage, to make that switch, to be at that medium. See, everybody wants to like find that medium, and it's either you do it or you don't. And like you mentioned too with the P90X, is like you got ripped, you got shredded. And then when you got to the end of it, a lot of people get to this place too. And believe me, I've been to this place as well, is all of a sudden, well, what's next, right? Well, I got to that point in my experience and I was like, well, what's next? And then I gave up, right? But then I paid attention to, because that's my personality, is to constantly be paying attention to what's happening in my life. And I realized that it's about making a lifestyle choice. There are a lot of alternatives to the Mountain Dews. There's a company called Zevia, which makes a Mountain Dew, but the soda has stevia in it, which isn't sugar. It's not going to be as sweet, but it's less detrimental than drinking the actual Mountain Dew. You have to get to a point inside yourself to say, is it worth it to keep making bad choices, or knowing that you're making bad choices, or is it better to just stop making the bad choices and to understand I have to make small micro adjustments to live in that medium to be able to have a happy, successful life. So you have to figure out what your emotional leverage is against you saying, well, I'm not going to do this. That to me is basically like, well, now you're closed-minded to the opportunity that's in front of you. So therefore you're not going to make that change. You have to be open-minded to making some sort of change in order to get to the goals or the destination that you want. I definitely believe that for a guy like you, we can get you to a place where you're in a happy medium, where you're losing weight, you're feeling better, you're packing the right nutrition. But it's a matter of really, at this point, you have to be open-minded to the change, because what you're doing right now, which you already admitted to me, isn't working. And to say, I can't make the change, even though I know it's not working, is only a detriment to yourself. And
Shut it. Shut it.
I know. I mean,
stop being so real. Get out of here.
That's my job. That's why I love being who I am. Because I'm not afraid to go to the places with people to be brutally honest, and develop accountability. And everything in this world is about self accountability and self discipline and self reliance. And without that, if you're lying to other people, guess what? Most likely you're lying to yourself. And if you're lying to yourself, then you're not going to reach your goals. You have to be
Absolutely.
real about every single decision that you're making and how it impacts you in order to get over the obstacle. So again, everything comes down to mentality
It,
to
Austin, you have
make
any comments
progress.
on Facebook about that?
so we actually, well, Chris came. He said, I agree with Ryan. It's all
Chris
mental.
Brown, what up, man?
Chris Brown, Chris
That's my
Breezy.
dude. That's
Uh,
cool.
then he said, sometimes for something bad has to happen, which sucks. I'm guilty of it, but it's the reason why Tom Brady is such a pro in his mental. And what he
Yeah.
just said is absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
People like Tom Brady, people like LeBron James, their career is a lot more physical than ours is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how have they been able to be at such elite levels for the amount of time that they have been? And each one of these guys spend $1 million to $1.5 million every year on their bodies. I can't
Mm-hmm.
say that you and I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
but that shows that somehow the investment of paying attention to your body, the nutrition, stretching, weightlifting, and resistance training, I should say. It doesn't even
Mm-hmm.
have to be weights, it could be bands, it could just be your
Yep.
body weight, but resistance training, all these different areas, somehow the investment of time and money and dedication into that has been paying extreme dividends in return on their investments. Extreme dividends.
100%. And it's getting them. They all these superstars. Tom Brady, he's a mental beast. He's I admire the shit out of him because of his mentality alone. We can literally see him in the game when things start to fall apart. You see it in his eyes. He makes a mental shift towards his focus towards winning the game. And he has such clarity, and he's been down that road so many times that he's able to find success, and it's a matter of repetition at this point. Coming back to the P90X thing too, man, is like we all get to the point where we're doing the P90X and we get to the end of it and it's like, great, well, you know how you become a master at anything, just like with your AV, is you have to keep at it and you have to keep learning, and progress is everything in life. You can't just go into something and going, well, I'm going to get here. Well, once you get there, you have to know that you have to go here, 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 and so on and so forth. And having an open mind is what allows you to achieve all these goals, and the goals that you never thought you would have come up with without getting to that point. I guarantee you, Tom Brady's a super open-minded human being, because that's what it takes to be able to understand the omnipotence of the game that he plays. And
Absolutely.
it comes down to the same thing with us, with our game. We have to be open-minded to the changes. If you have a better technician come in and say, hey, you could do it this way or do it that way or do it this way, well, he could be saving you hours of mistakes.
Very true.
But if you don't, if you're closed-minded because your arrogance is like, oh well, fuck this guy, he thinks he knows everything, well, guess what, you're cutting your nose off despite your face, limiting you from being able to get to your truest potential. And it comes back to the nutrition. Everything is like, holistic. Everything coincides the same with every single part of our life.
And that's
So
why that's why it goes back to that original
mhm.
question that we started. Like, why should it even be important for you as as the individual who's a viewer right now, you as the technician? Why should this be important for you? Well, this is the
Yeah.
longevity in your career. This is your health. This is your happiness. This is your mental health. This is your emotional feelings. It affects so many different things, including your performance. And
Mhm.
now let me actually deep dive this a little bit more so that you can really pay attention. What if the food that you ate affected how you felt today, and the way that you felt affected your mood, which affected your performance, which the client saw, had you in a bad mood, you snapped out on the client, now you lost the client and you're out of money, you're out of a show.
Mhm.
All because of a simple choice. You don't believe that it happened? What if that food that I'm talking about was actually alcohol? it goes back to the fuel that we put into our bodies as the machines, and it affects our performance on show site.
Getting deep,
Whether
100%.
Austin.
it could be
Getting
the
deep.
good and it could be the bad.
Getting deep.
It's the
Yeah.
absolute truth, though. It's the
It's
truth.
true.
Well, I completely myself, I divorced myself from alcohol because it created a huge detriment in my life. And you know, we have to be on such high level peak performance, mentally and physically, that all it does is drain us. You know, I have a really good friend who for his he's at an all-time career high. He's touring with Gojira, he's touring with Slipknot, he's touring with Ghost. And this guy is a passionate drinker. He loves having a good time and drinking. Those guys out on the road, those guys are working just as hard as us, if not harder, because they're dealing with the elements in these outdoor arenas and stuff. And he literally came back from his first tour, and he's like, I think I probably had like 5 beers in a 6 week period because I couldn't afford having more than that. Any more than that, I wouldn't have been able to do my job. And he was at a point where he had to show himself to who he was working for in order to continue going on tours, which was his dream. So he made, even though he's a high, I call them alcohol enthusiasts. He's very much an alcohol enthusiast. He himself saw that crossroad where he was like, well, you either can go this direction or this direction. I found myself down that road too. I've been a sober for a year and a half. I haven't touched alcohol. I have no use for it because it's such a detriment. You know, it puts us in a place where now we're not even thinking properly. You know, how many times have you gotten drunk and then woke up embarrassed because you said or did something that you didn't normally would have done? Well, you know, that detriment doesn't carry on to the next day. It carries on to years sometimes based on what decisions you make with it. So it's not a good avenue at all to, you know, unwind and relax. You know, if you want to unwind and relax, you know, do some breathing exercises. You know what I mean? I know it's very hippie of
Did you
That
me.
say
doesn't
do
sound
downward
anywhere as
dog?
cool,
Well,
bro. That doesn't
doing
sound
breathing
anywhere as
exercises,
cool. He said
you
do a
know.
downward dog.
Well, no, I said doing breathing exercise.
Same
Oh,
thing.
this guy. Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's true though. I mean, like guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, does breathing exercises. Anthony Robbins does breathing exercises. A lot of CEOs, bigwig CEOs, they do these breathing exercises because it's an easier way to get your body to an optimal level and your mind to an optimal level. So then you're not asking, and you're addicted to feeling good rather than that immediate fix of feeling good for a moment and then feeling like complete shit because you put a toxin in your body.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. And
mhm.
you. So actually, I think we were just talking about this prior to us going live. Right? Is I was in the gym and I noticed the difference in my performance today. And I'm not even talking about the weightlifting session. Let's just
Right.
talk about the cardio at the end. And I noticed the difference in, I'm like, man, this run feels harder today for whatever reason. And I say, you know what? We're going to make it harder. So we adjust the incline and we start going up, and then we bring the incline back down. And it feels like we're running
Mhm.
downhill just to mentally trick yourself that it's going to get a little bit easier.
Right.
And long story short, I got myself through the run because I pushed myself, but it
Mhm.
was so much more difficult today. And I asked myself, I said, why is that? One, I didn't eat before I went to the gym. So nutrition was poor, had poor fuel, and I didn't eat breakfast this morning. And of course, I didn't realize any of this until after the workout. I'm like, what is the last thing I had? I'm like, shoot, I had dinner last night and I pounded down 2 beers, 2 beers after dinner, just hanging out. And I'm like, oh man, if alcohol was the last thing I had in my body besides water, all this amount of time, that's why this workout sucks. That's why
Right.
I feel the way I felt. Now, I wasn't under the influence or anything of the sort, but like I said, this is the fuel that my body was working off of. How
Right.
many times has someone went out and they've been partying, had a good time, whether they're under the influence or not, but tomorrow it's time to show up to work. And I mean, let's face it, we work in Vegas, we work in LA, we work in some busy Miami,
Mhm.
some busy cities where parties are always going on. the discipline to make sure that we stay focused, take care of ourselves as the machines, going back to what you said,
Mhm.
before we go out there and operate machines. I feel like that's exceptionally important, excruciatingly important, because if we don't pay attention to it, what could happen next?
Well, let's first digress to the beginning of our conversation about inflammation. The inflammation is what starts to cause the issues with your performance. Your body sends out the free radicals and white blood cells in order to combat this inflammation that you're struggling with. Now, if you put yourself in a stress-induced environment, which is working out, your body does the same exact thing, is it releases free radicals. Now, what the feeling that you got is you had an overflow of free radicals in your body, which created that feeling of like, oh my God, I feel like death. Now, also with alcohol, it takes 72 hours for your body to 100% digest one drink. 72 hours. Just one drink. So think about that. You could be feeling that one drink for 3 days and not even know it. Now the moving forward to, like you said about partying in these cities, the hardest part about the party is showing up to the party and being a part of it while not partying. It's so socially acceptable to get drunk and to act a fool. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Not for us as technicians, though. Not for us as technicians. I
Well,
mean, and it happens. I'm sure every last one of
yeah.
us has been invited by a client. Hey, we're gonna go down to
Let's
the
go
bar.
party.
And then it happens all the time. But
even as technicians, just joining in with other technicians
Mhm.
as freelancers, like being invited not just with the client, but being invited to the production companies
Right.
gathering. Hey, we're all going out for some beers, and you're the only freelancer, and you got 8
Yep.
production guys that are all part of a company who hang out with each other's families in their city. And then
Yep.
you're
Well,
and you got to watch out what you do with that. Even if you think you're all
right.
buddy, you're still, not to say this harshly, but you're still the help.
So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because here's what I was getting to at the very end of what I was going to say is that emotional leverage that we talked about before. The right emotional leverage to get you through those experiences is to weigh in what the future holds. So if you go, okay, I make this choice to drink, well, you have to be honest with yourself and go, I'm not going to feel good tomorrow. I may not be on my highest performance, and evaluate all the detriments that one drink can cause, versus all the good that can come out of, I'm not gonna take this one drink because, number one, I'm gonna show myself that I have discipline. Number two, I'm gonna show myself that I don't have to be like everybody else and I can be myself and be okay with it and not be uncomfortable. That's a huge one. And number three, I can stay cognitive so then I can still butter up my client if I need to butter up my client without crossing the line. So we have to weigh in the good and the bad, and we always need to make sure that the good rivals over it. Because the decision in the now is so important to understand. Investment, short-term happiness, is only short-term happiness. Making a decision for the long term is long happiness, and the goal is to always have long happiness.
So to add to your statement, you
Mhm.
also have to think of the alternative edge of that is, if you don't go out and hang out with them, it looks like you're not part of the crowd.
Yeah, but nobody ever said you had to drink.
No, I'm not saying, but
Right.
when I don't drink hardly
Okay.
at all, and people do
Right.
notice, and people notice that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's not. I mean, but if you know me,
Mhm.
you also know I don't need to drink to have a good time and
Right.
go crazy and
Which is awesome.
be stupid. So stop laughing, Austin. Anyways, but there are a lot of people who, when they go out and don't drink, that it's not to say they're boring, but it's just like, okay, well, why'd you even come out? It's not to say that you don't want to hang out with them, but it's like, are you going to drive the car home tonight? I mean, you're not even socializing. So that, I guess, when you say, just to add to your, you have to weigh
Right.
the pros and cons, you also have to add in if you're going to go out with them and not drink, are you going to be, a deadbeat and just, you got to be
Well,
part of the social part of it as well.
right, exactly. And that's the biggest pressure that everybody deals with. And that's, again, back to the own mental pressure yourself. Well, here's the deal is whether it's, us just dicking around in the ballroom and talking shit to each other, the talking shit happens in our industry because that's who we are as brothers.
By the way, Ryan, I believe that we're on a censored call here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, when we're talking crud to each other, we'll say, when we're talking smack to each other,
Honky, yeah.
Yeah, when we're talking smack, it constantly happens because that's how we create better morale in the industry. So to expect that somebody may call you out on you not drinking, well, guess what? Now you have an opportunity to be stronger within your choice and not be bothered by what anybody else thinks. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you. Now, we do, of course, keep in mind, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, we have to impress our clients. Well, yes, of course we do. We impress them by our actions. A lot of people are actually really impressed by people that don't drink and say no to a drink. It's really actually encouraging to a lot of people. I have a lot of people. Yeah.
Sometimes if you go out with a client 4 drinks and you don't drink, you put yourself in the situation. You should have not have gone because
I'm drinking champagne made by Canada Dry.
Well, maybe. But
to get back on subject, we get the drinking's also part of that bad food, sugars, drinking, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Absolute. Actually, I wanted to bring in a couple comments that came in while we're going through this. Antonio Clark said it's a mental and discipline challenge. He said, I'm guilty as everyone in neglecting my diet and fitness. The pandemic gave me a chance to refocus on my health. So now even on long show days, I feel crappy if I didn't exercise and eat right. You have to decide and make a lifestyle change.
Exactly.
What you said is absolute true. Back to what we said earlier, body in motion continues in motion. I found you would think that, oh man, I'm so tired, I don't want to work out because that's going to take the last little bit of energy that I had. But what I found out is the mornings where I was up super early. Now, granted, in our work, you probably can't do it every morning, but the mornings where I got up early and
Ryan can.
Well, he's going to do the wall jacks. But if I did it 5 o'clock in the morning and I hit a workout, I found that, man, after I took that morning shower and I'm ready to go into work, I had high level of energy consistently throughout the rest of the day. So
yeah, I'm the same boat. It's like when I work out, which is, every now and then.
Underloading.
Yeah. No, not unloading a truck and loading a truck isn't the same as actually like a true like workout. You don't get the same levels of fatigue because it's like a slow workout. It's like going for a walk for an hour. It really doesn't. It doesn't get. It gets your heart right out.
It isn't as spiked as it should be.
But I mean,
there's more intention in a workout than there is, loading a truck. You're working out, but you don't have like isolated intent on what muscle you're using.
Let's not make the mistake of saying a truckload or a truck unload in a push is the same as a workout. It's not. It doesn't.
The reason I said that is because that's what a lot of AV guys say. Like, oh,
yeah, it does not calculate as the same. I mean, yes, does it? Are you moving versus not moving? Yes, but you're not. You're not getting the same level of return as you would as even a half an hour in the gym, slowly doing max reps. Through some of the cycle machines that they have, or if you go to like any gym in any hotel that's of its worth, and they'll have like 4 machines that are like pre-built for one exercise. If you do one of those, one set on each one of those 4 machines, and then 10 pounds more on each one of those machines, then 10 pounds more on each one of those machines, that's a workout. It only takes 20 minutes, and that's moving slow, and you'll get more from that than you would unloading an entire truck for 3 hours.
100%.
Now, cardio-wise, you'll get more from unloading a truck, but actually,
definitely
return on making your muscles break down and making your body work to replenish your muscles breaking down. That extends over you'll feel that workout for the next day and a half, and you'll feel like the next morning you'll be like, man, I feel skinny, or I feel like I'm still like anything I put in my body is just being soaked up by your muscles,
Yes, sir.
versus the cardio workout of unloading a truck where yeah, I don't feel it 2 hours afterwards. I feel like my feet are tired, but
Yeah.
and I'm sweaty and stinky, but I'm not getting the return of the workout
The
the next day.
biggest thing to take out of everything that you just said is intention. Setting an intention is everything to everything you do. To working out, you're setting an
Brian,
intention
Brian,
to,
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but what you're
yeah,
saying right now sounds like
hmm,
excellent closing statements.
yeah.
I don't know why it was already hitting me, and we're already after 9. We're on fire right now,
We
but I want
are,
you to give us some closing statements. So let's talk about intention. How can
yeah.
we tie up everything that we spoke about today? Let's talk about the intention, the mindset. How can give us some closing statements?
Well, so the biggest thing here is, the hardest part of anything is getting started, taking that first step. Before you take that first step, though, you have to have an intention and a goal. If without an intention and a goal, you're aiming for nothing. So, of course, it's going to be more difficult to get started. But if you develop an intention and develop a goal on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to progress to, then we have progress in sight. Intentions are so important to everyday life when it comes to nutrition. What is my intent in eating this versus this? What is my intent to working out this way versus this way? Be mindful of everything you do and be self aware and open minded to every experience.
I couldn't have said it better myself, man. That was pretty powerful, super
Thank you.
amazing. Rob,
Mhm.
did you have anything else that you wanted to share with us before we take off tonight?
No, said my piece.
All right, man. Take care, both of you. It's been an absolute pleasure. AV Educate community. I want to say that tonight we started off talking about food, fitness, and travel. How we ended talking about was intention. Why? Because intention seems like it's the one area that's absolutely important to be designated every last one of these areas in our lives. From the time we talk about travel, we're going on the road constantly, from hotel venue to convention center, city to city, state to state. We're constantly looking for what is our next meals. Maybe if we were a little bit more intentional preparing those meals, making sure that we gave our body the right fuel that we needed to make sure that we have maximal and optimal performance. Same thing with our mind, making sure that our brains are firing on the levels that we need them to fire on. Being intentional in all these different areas of our lives: food, fitness, travel, our work ethic, and our performance. I think that we touched base on so much tonight. I thought it was absolutely powerful. And one thing that we want to do is before we leave tonight, if anyone has any further questions or wants to get in touch with Ryan, we'll make sure that we go ahead and we'll drop Ryan will drop his information in the comments. Ryan, how can we get in contact with you? Ryan, what's the easiest way for us to get in touch with you?
Well, I
Drop
just
your
sent up
email.
there. Yep. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, my email I just put in the comments is rbalog@jthor.com.
Okay.
Please don't be a stranger. I'm open to all new experiences, very open minded. I would love more than anything in this world to help any of you out, to help situate and figure out what your goals are and help you understand more yourself and what your needs are inside your life and inside this business as well.
Absolutely. Thank
Hmm.
you again, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure having this time with you tonight. I'm sure that the entire AV Educate community appreciates it. And I want to say thank you again
Likewise.
and take care. AV Educate, I hope that you guys picked up all the information that you needed tonight. I hope that it's been nothing but valuable information. But the information is only good if we take it and we apply it. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Take care.